baking vlog. Today, we travel back in time to explore one of the oldest recipes in the book. We'll look at the additions made since then and how the recipe looks on today's modern online websites. Most importantly, we'll make the recipe our own and add some uniqueness that you can expect to see in the future of baking. Now, I'm sure you're on the absolute edge of your seat, dying to figure out what this heavenly mixture is called. Allow me to introduce to you Demon Cake. This cake is known for being extremely heavy, dark, spiced from ginger, and super thick. Doesn't sound typical of something you'd see on a 5-star menu, but hopefully the alterations made today might add to the flavor and the overall rating. Let's talk history. In NYC lives a house, not just any house though. This home was constructed in 1719 when Johannes Lotz bought farmlands along with his wife. The house has a hidden passageway that once formed part of the Underground Railroad. Since then, this house has been known as a hotspot for archaeologists, as it is home to a visual representation of time and modernization. Most astounding for archaeologist Loria was the recipe books. These recipes say the funniest of things looking from today's modern perspective. Things like bake in a modern oven with no record of temperature or time it's supposed to be in the oven for. It even says things like go get a cow for the meats pies. In addition to the recipe's progression, they serve as farm records showing when abundances of fruits and veggies flourished. This house still today receives funding for its upkeep. The Demon Cake was one of the most memorable recipes found in the books, and I want to figure out why it's so hard to come by today, and what better way to do so than to bake it and add my own futuristic twists. The first step is to preheat the oven to 350 degrees and grease a 9-inch cake pan. You're then going to line it with a circle of parchment paper. I just cut mine. Let's start. In a large bowl, combine half a cup of room temperature butter and half a cup of white granulated sugar. Next, we can go ahead and add the half a cup of molasses. This is very strong scented. We can then add 1.5 teaspoons of ground ginger, a half a teaspoon of cinnamon, a quarter of a teaspoon of ground ginger, a quarter of a teaspoon of nutmeg, 1 egg, and of course the magic ingredient, 2 teaspoons of brandy. Now we can go ahead and add 2 1/4 cups of flour. The dough will be very thick, so make sure to use a rubber spatula to bring down any mixture that's trying to escape.
Dope. That's wow.
Perfect temperature, perfect taste. Ember, the world's first temperature control mug.
In a small mixing bowl, combine half a teaspoon of baking soda and baking powder along with 1 tablespoon of milk. Mix this up and then add it to the rest of the batter. Now spread the batter into the cake pan. It will be stiff, so smooth it out with an offset spatula. Then you can bake for 55 to 65 minutes. Make sure you're doing the toothpick test. To find out if your cake is ready to be removed from the oven, stick a toothpick in. If it comes out clean, you can remove your cake. The end result of the demon cake looks fabulous. The taste is certainly one that's acquired though. The spices from the ginger and molasses give extremely harsh flavors. In the original recipe, the cake is to be enjoyed on its own, perhaps with a cup of tea. In modern online recipes, they say to add icing sugar for both visual appeal and a hint of sweetness. I suggest adding icing sugar and homemade whipping cream when serving. The cake is overall dry, but the flavors are like no other. Having the sweetness and the fluffy texture to pair it with makes for a brilliant evening dessert. When the Laud family left their home behind, they left archaeologists with gold, and the recipes were perhaps the most extraordinary discovery. In the Laud's recipe books, they instructed the reader to bake in a modern oven. Today, we read to bake at a certain temperature and for a specific amount of time. In the future, smart ovens become the norm, and ovens can recognize on their own for how long and at what temperature to bake or cook. One thing is for sure, I'll never let my futuristic bot take over the kitchen. Thanks for joining me on Bev's Baking Vlog. I'll see you soon.